In today's YouTube video, we are talking about whether or not you should run a crowdfunding campaign in 2025. So you've been thinking about launching a crowdfunding campaign, or someone told you about crowdfunding. In today's video, I'm really going to demystify this for you and get into just kind of the brass tacks of who should not run a crowdfunding campaign, and is this still a good opportunity for you? Is it worthwhile to even pursue this path? My name is Salvador Briggman, and I've been in the crowdfunding industry since 2012. I've seen the evolution of the industry, how it's grown and changed over time with the new developments as well this past year, which have been quite exciting. And by the end of this video, I want you to have confidence, clarity, and really understand, is this a good fit for you? So let's address the big question that might be on your mind, which is like, Sal, don't you run the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast? And you've written the book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, and you've written 4 books on crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding explained, real estate crowdfunding explained, nonprofit crowdfunding explained. You're giving lectures all the time. You're publishing videos out there on crowdfunding. Don't you have a vested interest in this? And I will address that in one simple way, which is to say that yes, I am a proponent of crowdfunding, but one of the biggest drawbacks, one of the biggest ways that the crowdfunding industry has been hurt over the years is people who don't understand whether or not they should actually do crowdfunding. And as a result, we've seen scam campaigns. We've seen people that defraud backers and donors. We've also seen people who unfortunately aren't able to deliver on their promises, and they create a bad name for the crowdfunding ecosystem. So I'm invested in really safeguarding that and making sure that we have a positive relationship between backers and creators, because keep in mind, these people, the crowd, they're not just random people out there. They're really individuals in their everyday life who believe in your project, in your initiative, in your organization, and want to impact the world for the positive. So I think we owe it to them to make sure that we really increase those success rates. So the first thing I want to mention might actually, kind of tick a little bit of people off, or you might not like it, because I know that I don't like being fit into a category. I think that I have brilliant, original ideas, and I put out high quality education, and no one is like me. I don't want to fit into any of those big categories. But if you really think about it, if you're doing something big, like you're producing a movie, right? And your movie doesn't fit into the action category or the horror category, which is one of my favorite, types of movies, or like the rom-com category or comedies or whatever it is. If they don't fit into one of these major categories, you become more of like an art film, which has a much less viewership and less people actually watching that, and not making those $1 million weekends that we see when it comes to new movies that are coming out. So when it comes to crowdfunding, to make an analogy here, you gotta fit into one of the major types of crowdfunding, or this might not be for you. I'm gonna be very candid. This is not for everyone. So first of all, there's rewards-based crowdfunding. We tend to think about platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo when it comes to rewards-based crowdfunding. I see a lot of students launching on these platforms who are maybe doing a film, they're doing an indie project when it comes to a publishing project, they could be doing a card game, a video game, could be producing a new e-commerce innovation of some kind, like a gadget or a gizmo or a design product. They could be even raising money for a music project, but what they all have in common is that they're raising money for a specific project, and the people that back or support that campaign are really kind of like pre-ordering that product in a way. So the first type is rewards-based crowdfunding. You also have nonprofit crowdfunding and also peer-to-peer fundraising, people raising money for a nonprofit organization and using and harnessing the power of the crowd to get that sucker funded. You also have real estate crowdfunding, which I actually pioneered putting on education in this industry with my book, Real Estate Crowdfunding Explained, where you can actually fund properties using crowdfunding or debt-based crowdfunding, which is sort of the next type of crowdfunding, so raising money. And people will actually fund, almost as like micro investors, a debt offering when it comes to crowdfunding. And you also have Patreon, which kind of fits under the umbrella of subscription-based crowdfunding. The one that I think has been growing an enormous amount as well in the last couple of years is equity crowdfunding, which I also have put out a lot of content on this past year, and that's using platforms like WeFunder or Start Engine or Republic.co in order to raise funds for a startup company, and those people become investors in your company and are expecting a financial return or a return on their investment, and really going directly to the crowd in order to raise capital for that startup. So you gotta fit into one of those types of crowdfunding. And if you don't, sometimes I'll have someone come to me and they're like, Sal, I wanna do this nonprofit that also gives away shares and equity, that's also selling an e-commerce project. There's nothing wrong with having multiple things you wanna do, but you gotta focus on one of them in order to be successful. Or you maybe just need a little bit more clarity on which one you should start with, because you can go, for example, from a Kickstarter campaign to then maybe using Patreon to get subscription-based crowdfunding on a residual monthly basis. And then you could go and do an equity crowdfunding campaign as well. There's no reason you can't do multiple right after each other, but you don't want to do them all at the same time. You got to fit into one of the major types of crowdfunding. The next one in this video is the stage of your idea. Now, I empathize with this more than anyone else, and that's because I have people all the time that come to me and they're like, Sal, I got an incredible idea. And we start to kind of get more into it, and I'm like, okay, tell me about this. Like, you know what? I can't really tell you anything, because if I tell you, then everyone's gonna know about this idea, they're gonna take it and they're gonna run with it, right? Or I have other people that come to me like, Sal, I have this great new product idea. And I say, awesome, right? Show me what you've done, what the work that you've put in. And when it comes to this, they're like, well, I kind of just have the idea. I haven't really done anything about it. And that kind of brings me to my next point, which is that crowdfunding is best for people that are willing to take action, to take that idea and to turn it into something real. Now, not everyone is like that. We have people that dream up incredible inventions and ideas and theories. Crowdfunding is really great if you are willing to take action on that idea. For example, put together a pitch deck, an investor pitch deck, just some slides. It could be even getting a prototype together when it comes to a new product which you've invented or creating. If you're doing a board game or a card game or something like that, it could be getting the artwork designed and getting that together so you can show other people. Crowdfunding is not a good fit if you're just staying in the idea stage and hoping that something is going to happen. It's best if you are willing to move down that path of making that idea in a form which you can share with other people. Get other people inspired and excited about your project, because if you're just remaining in that idea stage, there's no way, it's extremely challenging, unless you're already successful as an entrepreneur or a creator, as a nonprofit leader, to fund that idea. You gotta have something you can show the crowd. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillrite today. Link in the description. The next thing that every single successful campaign has in common is a plan. You got to be willing to turn that idea into action, yes, but also put in a little bit of that elbow grease, a little bit of hard work, right? To get this sucker out there and to have a plan from point A to point B. You are right here at point A. You want to get to point B, and there are some obstacles and some things you got to get through in order to get there. So every single successful crowdfunding campaign that I've come across, whether that's speaking with them on my podcast, Crowdfunding Demystified, working with them as clients or as students, every single successful crowdfunding campaign has a plan and is willing to execute on that plan. So sometimes I have someone come to me and like, you know what, I want to whip this together and get this out there within a matter of like 2 days and raise a bunch of funding and be able to then fly that cash to the Bahamas and live great on the beach and sip margaritas, right? This is not for you. If that is what's in your mind or what you're hoping for, this is not the right path when it comes to crowdfunding. And you should not do a crowdfunding campaign this year. And that's because it takes at least a little bit of planning, hard work, gumption, and elbow grease to get any meaningful campaign out there. And here's another thing. Your backers, your donors, your startup investors, whatever type of crowdfunding you're doing, they also want to see that once they do give you this money and you do have that really big lump sum of cash deposited into your bank account, that you are going to continue to take action. You're going to go out there. If it's a nonprofit, you're going to go and help that target demographic in need. If you're doing a startup company, that you're gonna continue to build your product out and continue to market that and hire the right people and grow this so eventually their startup investment is worth something. If you're doing more of a Kickstarter, Indiegogo, rewards-based campaign, you're gonna deliver on that product. You're gonna get it manufactured and mass-produced with that funding that you use, and then they're gonna be able to maybe own and get this on their doorstep as a package, that product in the future. I realize in kind of making that known and saying that, some people might have dropped off from this video, which is okay. I don't make these videos for everyone. If you're still watching at this point and you're like, okay, I have something I'm willing to work on and I'm making strides toward that, and I do fit into one of the major categories, we'll talk about sort of the next most powerful and important component. But in addition, if you do like this video, give me a thumbs up and come subscribe to this channel so you can get more notifications when I put out videos every single week. The next part is, I would say, a pillar of crowdfunding, or one of the golden nuggets that goes into success. And that's pretty much consistent across the board with every successful campaign I've worked with or that I've seen out there. And that very often the creator or the founder, for them, the funding is not the most important part of doing crowdfunding. Now, don't get me wrong. It's great to raise a bunch of money, to blow past your funding goal, to be able to use that funding however it is you'd want, and to move your idea, your initiative, to impact the world, to be able to bring something new into the world. That is so cool, right? But chances are that if you actually were to think back on that success, maybe a year from now, most of the equity, most of the incredible, elements of that experience are the fact that you could build a tribe from nothing, that you get thousands of followers following what it is that you're doing for multiple campaigns, which you can run in the future, or that can even start your e-commerce or your brand, your company brand, and grow that brand from scratch into a powerhouse name in a short 30-day time span. In my opinion, that's worth a heck of a lot more than just getting one cash transaction when it comes to a funding campaign. So typically, successful campaigns also value the tribe in which they're building. They also value the fact that you're going to get media hits, mentions from bloggers, Instagrammers, YouTubers, people that are singing your praises. You then have a tribe and a community, which you can do more launches in the future that can give you feedback on the product or whatever it is that you're making or designing or coming out with, and get great feedback in order to improve that as you're going throughout this process. And arguably the most important, which is to use this for validation. Is this even an area of your life that you should be continuing to focus on over the next couple of years? The more you launch these products and more of these campaigns, what you realize is you just don't want to waste time. So I'd rather find out now whether or not I have a winner versus much further in the future. So you save a lot of time and money figuring that out, compressing everything into one business bootcamp, short time duration where you're launching this, you're getting that validation, getting that funding, you're seeing that very visibly in front of the naked eye, you're getting those media mentions, you're building a tribe, you're getting your brand going. These are the reasons why crowdfunding would be a good fit for you. Now, the last thing I want to mention in this video, and I have many other videos out there on every topic of crowdfunding, and I also obviously do one-to-one individual coaching with students as well. But what I would say is that one of the most important ones that's often overlooked is this idea that crowdfunding cuts out the middleman. And there's something great about that in some ways, but at the same time, there are pros and cons when it comes to cutting out the middleman. So what are the drawbacks of this? The biggest drawback is that the middleman does serve a purpose. Now, it might not be a very good purpose, right? But they do serve a purpose. And that's if you are, let's just say like a music producer, you're an artist, you're coming out with a new album, right? And you sign on with a music label. Well, technically that music label, their job is to market your album. If you're a publisher, you're coming out with a new book or something like that, or even a new illustration style book, and you sign on with a publisher, that publisher is supposed to market your book and has traditional marketing channels for that. So these middlemen that we talk about when it comes to funding do serve a purpose. And if you're going down the route of crowdfunding, what you got to know is that you are going directly to the crowd. You're going straight to the people to fund your idea. And the great thing about that is that there's no middleman and there's no red tape, and you can very quickly find that out, right? The second thing you got to be aware of, though, is that you have to be more aware and more cognizant of the fact that you need to market. You need to toot your own horn. You need to be willing to shout from the rooftops and, get the word out about this campaign, about what it is you're doing, involve the public's imagination. Of course, yes, there is a crowdfunding platform, which that platform has regular backers and supporters and people that can fund your project once you get the fire started, but you do have to be willing to start the fire. So first of all, at this point in time, if you do have more detailed questions or you do have more clarity you'd like to get on crowdfunding in deciding whether or not this is a good fit for you, or maybe you already are aware that you do want to do a campaign and really looking for the nuts and bolts of what's happening behind the scene, the tools, the tactics, the strategy that goes into a powerful launch so you can blow past your goal, but also have someone there to answer a little bit of those nitty-gritty, to give you feedback every step of the way when it comes to your work and to tell you what you don't know, because I would say, there are many different pitfalls when it comes to crowdfunding. Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know going into a process. Go down below and you can book an individual one-on-one coaching call with me at the link crowdcrux.com/coaching. That link crowdcrux.com/coaching at crowdcrux, crowdcrux.com/coaching. You can go there, you can fill out a form, tell me more about you, your project, what your aspirations are when it comes to your goal, and tell me more about what your vision is. And we can get that call scheduled when it comes to that link, crowdcrux.com/coaching. So go down there and book a call today. The final thing I will say is that regardless of whether or not you book a call, I hope that you continue to learn on this channel and to make sure you subscribe. But also, and I'm gonna leave you with this because it's obviously my goal to educate you and to put out high quality education in this niche, in this industry. But also, I do believe there's kind of an ulterior motive, which I have, which is that, man, I want you to go out there and I want you to start to take some action. Every single week, commit to taking action and to moving this idea forward, because you have an ethical obligation. If you can actually impact other people with this project, this idea, this organization, you, my friend, have an ethical obligation to show up when it comes to this. Whether or not you end up using crowdfunding or not, you have an ethical obligation to move this forward. Thank you so much. My name is Salvador Briggman. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.